You're listening to the Kristof podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Kristof podcast, where I have conversations with inspirational people. This is conversation number 37, and it is with the talented Mr. Frank Salas. He was coming to us out of Colombia, and he's been continent hopping, running 6 businesses via a cell phone for 10 years. This guy is amazing. He's a true visionary, and I am not joking when I say I learned so much from him. He absolutely blew my mind. He's a very frank kind of guy, and seriously, no pun intended, this dude is serious. He's like, he tells you what's on his mind, and I love it. I told him, I said, listen, Frank, I love what you're saying. You are the type of guy that says what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And that was this entire conversation. We talked about a plethora of things, of what it takes to actually go out there and pursue what you want to pursue in life, and not deal with all this other shit that life and society constructs that makes you think that this is the way you should live. You know, paying all these bills, paying this mortgage, paying for these fancy cars. You need 2, 3 cars. You don't need all this shit. You can put all this stuff aside. If you really care about what you want to do, you know, quit that corporate job. That's just the start of it. There are so many things that Frank was so straightforward about, and he just told you what you needed to hear. He told me what I needed to hear. I'm so excited for this conversation. Welcome to the Kristof podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man, I loved what you did initially when we started talking. You reached out to me, you were persistent, and you were accurate with what you wanted to get through to me. You sent me an extremely detailed and professional email right off the bat saying, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to talk about. And I was like, let's do it. I want to have you on here. So thanks so much.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I saw you were doing some big things. I saw you had some big names on here. And I was like, hey, man, I want to contribute to your audience. And, man, this guy here, he's showing up every day and bringing you strong players to learn stuff from. I remember when I was coming up in the entrepreneurship ranks, I wish there was a show like this to really just find out, hey, man, how do you actually get stuff done in this game?
Yeah, I appreciate it, and that's the goal. And, you know, we were just talking a second ago offline, talking about the growth of the podcast, and it's tough, man. It's not going to be easy, and that's one of the other things that we've talked about before we started recording, too, is, hey, man, more people need to know about this stuff, and you just got to get going with it, and you got to start sharing the information. You got to be consistent. You have to be really, really consistent with it, and you have to be persistent, because there's going to be a lot of hurdles to do. And I'm sure with everything that you've been doing, because I know you do real estate, we were talking about outsourcing and marketing, all this stuff, you didn't just start doing it. I mean, how did you get into even what you're doing? You are the talented Mr. Salas. This is your company. What is it all about, and how did you get doing that?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Medellin, Colombia. I just got back from Bali, Indonesia. I spent some time traveling in the United States, and I travel the world and run my businesses from my phone and my laptop. About a few years ago, about 3 years ago now, I decided that I didn't want to be landlocked to my business.
Yeah.
My first business was a brick and mortar business. My second business was a real estate practice. And I liked making money and I liked having a business. What I didn't like was that I didn't have any freedom. And so I realized that I had to get really good at outsourcing, delegation. And what I found out is that the way to get best at that is to have strong systems, strong documentation, and just to have your operations on point in combination with having your marketing on point. If you have strong systems and if your marketing is strong, you are now going to have a plethora of leads come your way that other people service and sell that allow you to scale your company.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the longest, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying absolutely. That sounds great. You're building a great foundation, a great system, have you said, but you can have the best system in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then who's going to know what that is? So you have to equally have a phenomenal marketing as well. And I know, again, that's something we're talking about with the podcast. So I'm glad you're speaking about it.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing is I was tricking myself, and a lot of people trick themselves to think, oh, well, I've got a business. And when you really ask them, they don't got a business. They got a job. They don't own a business. They own a job. And the goal and the benefit that I found from having strong operations through outsourcing is you own a system, and that system works whether you do or don't. I just recently moved from Bali to Medellin, Colombia. That's literally from one half of the world to the other half. It took me 4 days to get down, and during those 4 days, I still had clients paying invoices. I still had thousands of cold emails being sent out.
Yeah.
I still had my leads being followed up with me. I still had people reaching out to be on podcasts just like this. And the power of having strong systems is being able to have true freedom to operate wherever you like, under whatever you like. Even for us, before we even got on this call, you were on Skype, and because my assistant was so rigid to our structures and systems, they were like, no, we want to use Zoom. Frank doesn't do anything other than Zoom. If you want to use Skype, you're going to have to reschedule. And I'm like, okay, let me reach out to Kristof so he doesn't cancel on me, and I hit you up on Skype.
No, it was hilarious. Well, yeah, absolutely. I was laughing because I'm like thinking what actually entailed. I try to accommodate. I typically use Skype. I wanted to accommodate. I used Zoom, and however it happened, it corrupted my system. I don't even know. We don't need to get into it, but I was able to resurrect my system somehow and make it work. But you're right. I love it. Automation. I am huge when it comes to automation and systems that work, whether you're there or not. And that's what I couldn't love more about what you're talking about here. And you learn that clearly from a very, very early on, and you've been applying it ever since. You can be down for an hour, days, a week, and it's still going to go. You have people, VAs or virtual assistants that are doing that for you on certain things, and I'm sure you have a plethora of other means to get what you need done. But like you said, you're still getting thousands of emails sent out there, all these cold calls, and I'm sure so many other things that I couldn't even wrap my head around. But the point is that you have automation, and automation is key to have that passive. Everybody preaches about having passive income and doing this and doing that. I want to make money while I sleep. Well, here is a living example of this person that is automating things 24/7, and you have the freedom to do absolutely anything that you want. You can move, like you said, across the world. You're doing it on a phone. You're doing it on a laptop. It doesn't matter. Hook me up to the internet and I'm ready to go. That's what you're all about.
Exactly. And most of the world has Wi-Fi, so I just jump on the Wi-Fi. Most of the world has cell phone coverage. I'm able to run my business anywhere. And for me, that puts me in my highest operational state. It allows me to execute, it gives me more creativity. It also gives me the spontaneity. Like every weekend, I go on a new adventure. I can see cool artifacts and trips and hiking and do this. It's just fun, and I really enjoy coming from that frame.
Absolutely, and you should be able to do that. One of the things I always recommend people to do is go travel and see the world. It gives you a whole new perspective. You're able to see other cultures. You're able to meet other people and just experience new things and really just open up your mind and see how other people think. And it makes you feel different. It makes you just have different opinions. And I think it makes you appreciate what you have a lot more, especially for people. I'm in the United States. I'm here in the East Coast of the United States, like many know. And man, all the traveling that I've done, I know every single time I come back to the States, I'm even more appreciative of what I have here. Things that I take for granted on a daily basis. And you get to see that in all your travels, South America and wherever else. I mean, I'm sure you've been to more countries that I can even count to right now.
And that's the thing is actually I've only been to about 7 countries. I typically spend about 2 to 3 months at a time.
Okay.
And really get to know the country, really have to get settled down. As much as I like to travel, I also like having a little bit of, structure or routine, a nice gym, good restaurants, good food, massages, haircuts, barbershops, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta enjoy it as well. But I'm the same type of guy. I love a routine. I perform better when I have a routine. If I don't have a routine that doesn't hold me to something or doesn't automate my life to a certain sense, then I can fall out of it a lot quicker. I won't go to, you mentioned the gym. I won't go to the gym. If I know that before I go to work, or right now I switched it up because I was getting bored, so I go to the gym after work. But if now I do it every single day, you go to the gym, or every single day, whatever you have to do, it's a routine. That's what you're going to do, and that's how you get it done. So I totally can appreciate that. But yeah, I am surprised it's only been 7 countries. But if you're only going 3 to 4 months, then I totally get it, man. But 7 is still a lot too, especially be able to pick up and move on the whim like that. That's incredible. I think it's awesome what you're doing, really.
Yeah, man. And I used to, think about this lifestyle. I used to be running my real estate practice in Austin, Texas. And I used to look at people on their Instagram, like working from their laptop at this beach, or like running their business from here. And I was like, if these guys could do it, I'm pretty dang sure that I can figure this thing out. And it definitely wasn't easy. Yeah. But once I realized that it was possible, it allowed me to just experience life in a completely different way. I've been full-time traveling since January of 2016.
I mean, that's insane. That's a long time. And I love what you said. You said, I saw these other guys and girls doing it. They were just, sitting on the beach on Instagram or whatever, on their phone, on their laptop, in a hotel posted up somewhere. And they're doing it. So you asked yourself, well, if they're doing it, why can't I do it? And I want more people. You asked, kind of, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? And I said, well, we're going to talk about a few things, a few fundamental things, and we're going to see what springs up, because that's how I like it. And right here, you brought up a great thing that I like to speak about. I want to show people, you brought it up organically, that I saw those people doing it, and I thought, why can't I do that? That is a huge pillar that you just hit on. You nailed it. Why can't I do that? If somebody else is doing that, why can't I do it? I want people to see examples of you, Frank. I want them to see that Frank asked, why not me? And then you did it. And now, we're 10 minutes into this, and you're looking back and you're like, wow, he described all of these things. And at first, it didn't just automatically happen. You saw it. You're like, why can't I do it? You made the decision to figure it out, because you said it wasn't always easy, and it definitely wasn't easy at first, but you committed to figuring out how to do it. And now you are here talking to me on the podcast, describing going from country to country, leapfrogging amazing countries out of a hotel looking, multiple stories up, talking to me. Like, that's awesome, man. This is exactly who I want on the podcast. This story, this person. Thank you.
Yeah, man. And like I was sharing with you earlier, when I first got started into the business game, there was nothing like this where people could just plug into people who were doing this. Like, you had to know an uncle, or you had to know a guy, or you had to be around somebody, or be in the right neighborhood or in the right circles. And now people can go to their phone and type in entrepreneur interview and get some people who have lots of experiences and lots of value to add, and just understand the mindset. I think once you understand the mindset of being an entrepreneur or a business person, a lot of things start to come natural. A lot of things just shift, and you don't perceive the world the same way as everybody else does.
So you speak about entrepreneurial mindset and perception of the world around you. What is one thing that maybe that you've really began to notice since you became who you are today?
I really have noticed resources. I used to think that resources was just money, but it's not. It's time, it's energy, it's influence, it's favor, it's luck, and luck is a byproduct of massive action.
Absolutely.
Resources are your network, people that you know, people that know you back. Your resources are your social media channels, your reach. Your resources are your work ethic. Your resources are your ability to say, hey, I just woke up at 2 o'clock, I just went to go pee, and I could go back to sleep, or I could probably put an extra few hours in my business and get everything I need to get done before 7 o'clock, and then put out the fires of the day, and then go to bed early at 8 o'clock, and my resource is a good night's sleep. That's a resource. And so I would say that's the biggest thing that has changed for me, is really identifying my resources.
No, that's perfect. I absolutely love that. Thank you for answering that on the whim there. But you talk about mindset, and mindset is definitely a huge thing that comes up here. You have to you really have to figure out what's going on inside of your head before you can make these own decisions. Even the small thing of saying like, hey, I see these people doing it. I'm going to make a conscious effort to figure out what they're doing. Or like you said, getting up in the middle of the night and making a decision. Obviously, it'd be a lot easier and more comfortable to go back to bed and just wake up and then do it. But already, I've already picked up things from you that I already need to implement to my own life. And I think that's another step of it, or another stage of it, is being able to understand and be have that humility where like, hey, I don't know everything. Frank just taught me something. Like, hey man, he just gave me this example. Why am I not doing that? Like obviously other people can do that.
Yeah, man, and that's the goal. The goal is always to be around people that are greater skilled than you. One of the things that I did with my freedom from living this kind of lifestyle is I dedicated a year to become an amateur boxer. And one thing I found is that if you spar with somebody who is above your skill, that's where you get the most gain.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
spar with somebody who's below your skill, then you have two choices. You could beat them up and kind of be a bully, not really a bully, but just demonstrate your skill. Or you could focus on your weaknesses and you could allow them to try to build up their strengths and skills while you build up your weaknesses.
I love that.
And that's the same thing with entrepreneurship. Like, people have different skills. Like, I'm amazing at marketing. I'm amazing at operations. And I'm getting better at finance because I'm hanging out with people and having conversations with people that are amazing at finance.
Those are great examples to be able to do that because, of course, for you to be able to spar somebody at a greater level, at a more experienced level, that person has to thus spar somebody at a lower level from them. But you can still spar someone at a lower level than you and still learn something from them. I definitely subscribe to the idea that you can learn something from most everybody. And in this scenario, when you're sparring somebody of a lesser ability, there are things that you can work on. Like, hey, maybe I'm not good at this. I'm going to let them try to teach me this. And, I'm going to lower my guard here. And then we're going to work on that. I absolutely love that. And then the thing you said a little bit earlier on your last point before we got to this is you said there's so many easy things. You said you had to know an uncle, you had to know, a brother, sisters, former roommate. But now during these beautiful times that we live in, and I say beautiful because I truly think it's amazing how easily you can access information and you can find out anything you want, just as you are in a different continent right now. We're having this conversation and I'm learning from you, in real time. And then I'm able to share this in literally all over the world in 20 plus countries, I think now. So like people all over the world can hear what you're telling me, and you and I aren't even in the same continent. So it's so easy accessible. So if you have the work ethic, like you said, to make that decision to maybe get up in the middle of the night and bust out a couple hours, combined with some of the marketing that you're continuing to learn, combined with the finance that you're continuing to learn. And it's admittable, you said yourself, you don't know everything, but you put yourself around people that know finance better than you. And then you ultimately learn from them and you figure out. And I think one of those parts maybe you would agree with is that you have to define maybe what you need to become better at so that you can put yourself in a position to spar, quote unquote, somebody at a higher level.
Absolutely. And, and I think looking at your weaknesses should come after focusing on your strengths. I think you should triple down on your strengths and get as far as you can with your strengths, and then be like, okay, I'm good here, but let's start working on these other areas, or let me bring in other people who are really strong on these areas. So for me, because I'm so strong at sales and marketing, I still handle most of the sales for the bigger deals in my businesses, because I've got a system now that pre-qualifies appointments, that sets them on my calendar, that makes sure that they show up. And all I do is jump on the phone or jump on a video call, and I sell them on the idea of working with my business. And then they just pay, and I don't even invoice them. I don't follow up with them. I don't service them. I don't give them any kind of customer service. I may answer a few questions here and there, but my team serves them. So if you're listening to this and you want to be an entrepreneur, the thing you need to do fastest or quickest is to figure out how can you bring money to your organization and then get the heck out of the way so your organization can service the money. Your duty is to bring the money. Their duty is to service the money. You just follow that, and you'll be able to hire what I call a CEO. You'll have CEO money at that point. A lot of people think, oh, I want to be a CEO. I don't want to be a CEO. I want to hire a CEO. I want to pay somebody 120 grand a month to run my business for me. That's what I want to do.
I'm laughing because I love it. I absolutely love everything you said, and I cannot wait to go back and re-listen to this. I mean, to the whole entire conversation, but this bit right here, because I've never heard it described as that. I don't want to be a I mean, there's a lot of points there, but one of the huge and more recent ones is I don't want to be a CEO. I want to hire a CEO. I mean, it reminds me of this. I don't know if I can see it behind me right now on these books, but it reminds me of this book I read recently about essentially creating a business. You almost want to franchise the business in a sense, and that kind of at least reminded me of that, to where you don't want to be there to run it. I mean, you've said that from the beginning. You don't want to be there to run it. You do a couple things that truly require your decision making, but everything leading up to that and everything leading after that does not require you. And then you can schedule that when you want. So it doesn't matter. You can still have that freedom, that freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want it.
Absolutely. And there's also a trade-off. So when I have that freedom, I got to commit to my system. So every Sunday I commit 45 minutes to shutting off all my browsers, shutting off my tablet. I've got 3 phones. I shut those off. I shut off all my applications, all of my Skype, all of my AOL Instant Messenger, my ICQ, my Yahoo Messenger, everything. I shut down everything, man. My MySpace, I shut it all off, man. And I focus for 45 minutes, and what I do is I do a brain dump. The first 5 minutes of my brain dump are super hard because I look at my schedule of what I'm going to do for that week. So this is Sunday night. I've already had my fun, watched the Cowboys play, and had some barbecue, saw my friends, smoked a cigar, did all that, and like I'm about to go to sleep, but I look at my calendar, 45 minutes at night, and I just think about how do I want that week to go? Like, how would the perfect week work for me? What do I need to do for these meetings to make this a reality, a successful reality? The first 5 minutes, I'm just thinking. Then I start to go off, and I just like quickly write, I need to do this, got to do this, got to get this done. And so I just brain dump 45 minutes of just nonstop brain dump. And for me, I like to write it just so I can get it out of my head, and it's just easier for me. And I feel like, as an entrepreneur, like I got 6 companies, so I feel like the weight of the world gets off of my chest and onto this paper, and it's out. And if I get it out of me, it's no longer taking up precious space in my brain, which allows me to make clearer and better decisions. And so now, after 45 minutes, I've got this entire brain dump. And now, on Monday, when I wake up, I can go to my little notepad and I can write emails or go to my project management tool and assign these tasks that I brain dump to my team so they get it done. So I might then take 1 or 2 hours to assign or delegate these tasks to my team. And then I go, I'm going to go check out a restaurant. I'm going to get a massage. I'm going to go do whatever because my money is working for me. I'm taking my money and I'm buying other people's time and energy, and I'm having them work into a structured system that I know works. And that gives me freedom. But if I don't do the 45-minute brain dump, and if I don't do the 1 to 2 hour delegation of the brain dump, none of that stuff works smoothly. And if it doesn't work smoothly, I don't have that freedom. I'm going to have to focus my time and energy to fight the fires that inevitably come.
Man, you have definitely put some thought into this at a very minimum. Once again, just as you described, the man that does not want to be a CEO, he wants to hire a CEO. I can't get over that, but I love it. You have this powerhouse, ultimate, like, focused, like, just dense power moment of just crushing what you have in your head and focusing on what needs to get done for the week already. And then you go out there and delegate. I love delegating. There is so many things, or I love the idea of delegating. I'm not necessarily in a position to do what you're doing right now, but I love it in a sense of something that harkens back to what you said earlier is crush your strengths. Absolutely work and push your strengths as far as you can go and then delegate what you don't know. It's something actually that my father taught me. He was an entrepreneur. He ran a business in New York City. I love him. Hi, Dad. But he taught me, he recognized, he wasn't good at things. I wasn't good at some things. And he said, you know what? I did good things. And he reminds me of you in some senses. Truly, he crushed some things. Like, you are doing so good at some things. Then he said, you know what, Chris? You can just hire people to do that. And that always resonated. So for me to hear you say that again is very important. But I've talked to a few people. I believe Chris Harder, conversation number 26, was another guy that brought up on Sundays. He loves using Sundays. He didn't necessarily talk about him in the manner of presetting the week, but in actually recapping the week and seeing what he didn't do, or what he could have done better, what he didn't do as well as he'd like. So either way, what I'm seeing consistently now in these podcasts is somebody setting up their week, or at least focusing on what they did do and seeing what they can do better. But I love that you had this, I said, like, powerhouse hour or 45 minutes of just really focusing, crushing everything down, pushing everything down, the MySpace even, which is, that's crazy. If you're still using MySpace, we need to have a separate conversation after this. I'm just kidding. But no, you do this for 45 minutes and then you go out there, you focus on really what you want to have. And that's what I love taking out of this is focus. You really focus on what needs to happen without any distractions, because 45 minutes of undistracted time, think about an 8-hour workday for people that you don't work an 8-hour workday, but for people, that work an 8-hour workday, how much work are you actually getting done, with distractions, if you're going into an office, all this stuff. So to sit down and actually get a 45 minutes in is great. And then you figure out your strengths and weaknesses within that 45 minutes for that week, and then you delegate, and then the rest of the week is yours.
Yeah, man, and that's a great point that you brought up about people not being focused. So one of the principles that I have is that I only hire remote workers. I make deals with people, and so when you said who still works 8 hours, well, employees work 8 hours. I make a deal with my people that says, hey, you give me 40 hours a week, I'm going to give you this pay.
Yeah,
and
sure. I do that too, man. I do too. And I'm not, downcutting anybody that works. I'm in the position now to work that too. But I was kind of laughing as I was saying, because I know you're not doing that right now.
Yeah, for sure. And so even so, you're right. If somebody's working in an office, I agree with you. Like, you got to drive up there. There's water cooler talk. You got to pay in America. Even you got to pay people to poop. There's actually this thing called a poop calculator where you can type in how long it takes you to poop on average, and they'll tell you for the amount of time and hours that your company has paid you to poop. So, for me, I'm not trying to pay people to poop. So I hire in countries where the American dollar is strong. So right now I've got a recruiting company and a training company that hires people from Latin America, Eastern Europe, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, Africa, Eastern Europe, India, and Asia, where the dollar is super strong, and we teach them how to work in these remote offices. And we don't deal with that. We don't deal with people. We don't pay people to poop. We don't pay people to be on Netflix or anything like that. And the way that we do that is in a transparent environment, all of our offers say this. We say, if you want to work with us, then we're going to take a screenshot monitor. Every 2 minutes, we're going to take a screenshot of whatever it is that you're doing. 30 screenshots an hour. 240 screenshots per shift, 1,200 screenshots a week, 4,800 screenshots a month. I know where my dollar's being spent. We're also tracking their website usage, their application usage, their keyboard movement, and their mouse movement. So if their activity level is less than 80%, that's 80, they don't qualify for salary for that pay period. And they have to sign that in their agreement before they ever start working. And that nips a lot of the bull crap in the bud.
I've never heard any, maybe other entrepreneurs out there have heard something like this, but personally, I am not familiar with that. That is, and I think in your email to me, you wrote about micromanagement. And some people are for it, some people are against it. I guess it depends. There's a ton of variables there. But to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm definitely learning here as we go. But that seems like some form of micromanagement to where you're doing that. You're almost keeping the person honest in a sense. I mean, they don't even have time to be dishonest because of the screenshots every 2 minutes. But I mean, truly, you're keeping them honest. They really have no option, or they can either do it or not work for you. And it's not like you're forcing them. They either want to work there or they want to not work there. And if you want to work for you, that's the stipulation. So you can either sign on the dotted line or not.
Absolutely. And so for me, I don't see it as micromanagement. I see it as operating in full transparency. Another level of that is that if their computer is inactive for 2 minutes or less, they automatically get clocked out. So we're not paying them to ride the clock. So they can go potty, they can go handle delivery, they could even go run an errand if they want to. So on the contrary, instead of micromanagement, we view it as full transparency. We say, hey, you're an adult, I'm an adult, we just want to pay for results. We don't want you to work over 40 hours. In fact, once you clock in for 40 hours, you can no longer clock it anymore. Go have a life. Go find a spouse. Go on an adventure. Leave us alone. We'll see you on Monday or whenever your next shift is, because we don't want to overwork you. And that's a big problem that a lot of people, workers have, is they're getting overworked. You're either an entrepreneur or you're an employee. If you're an employee, cool. You got to sell your hours to somebody. Why not sell your hours to somebody who's going to allow you to work from your house, a coffee shop, anywhere in the world, and you control your schedule for the most part of when you clock in, when you can go run this
very
errand.
Interesting.
There's a lot of freedom there.
Yeah, and that's why I bring it up, and I said, please correct me, because I'm learning as we go. So I definitely want people to ask those questions as well, and that's why I did beg that question. It's a very interesting point that you bring up. It definitely works on both sides of the street, not just for the employer, but for the employee. It's a very interesting technique that I've never heard used before, because it gives you, like you said, they can work at home, or it helps them ensure that they get their full 40 hours. It helps you ensure that you get your full 40 hours, and they have they have their own freedom. You know, hey, put in your 40 hours or whatever time is specified here, but you can go do whatever you want as long as you get the time in. So I don't care what time of the day you work. I don't care how many increments of time you work at a time, but we're going to clock you out if you're not there for more than 2 minutes, and the rest is yours. Have fun.
Absolutely. And so what's funny is that so I do some consulting. I'm an operations consultant and just an overall business consultant. So when I meet with companies that hire Americans or Australians or Canadians or people from the UK, any of the first world countries, and we go in and we implement this process, 20% of the staff bitches and moans. And they're like, oh, no, I don't want to. And they literally act like little kids. And these are the people that are watching Netflix, that are watching Hulu, that are wasting company resources. And actually, the other 80% know that about them, and they probably have known that about them for months or even years, and they're thankful to cut the fat and get rid of people, because it's really easy, especially in America, where we have these really outrageous unemployment laws. Like, if I find somebody watching Netflix, I have to catch them a minimum of 3 to 5 times, document it, get them to sign all these crazy, warnings before I can fire them without having to pay unemployment. And if I fire them before for wasting my resources, then I've got to pay their unemployment on my premium for 2 freaking years.
Dude,
how messed up is that?
It's super messed up. It's definitely not fair. I don't know. Fair doesn't capture the amount of anger that comes when I hear that. I mean, as an employer, that's very difficult. There is a huge potential for employees to absolutely waste the shit out of time for the employer. And we see it all the time. And it's funny how things happen in this world, whether it be work or not. But typically, from my experience, when the people start bitching, it's usually because something's wrong on their end. It's never, I mean, why would the person that's, actually working the full 40 hours and not looking at Netflix or not looking at Hulu or whatever, why would they have no reason to bitch about it. So I just say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, these people are going to get greased out of a job is what I was trying to say. That was painful, but I'm just saying, the resistance gets cut, right off the top, the fat gets cut. I think you said it yourself. Yeah, man. Only the guilty get offended. Only the guilty get offended. And that's so true. And that's, great. You guys can, bitch, moan, complain all you want, but you're not going to have a job here, at least for this employer. And I do firmly believe that the employer, I mean, like I said, it's not like it's not slave labor. It's not forced labor. You can either choose to work for this individual or you can choose to not work for this individual. So if you do choose to work for this individual, these are the stipulations. We're going to pay you. We're going to pay you fairly, but this is what I require out of you because this is a serious job. And and we require serious individuals that are not going to waste the time. Have you seen, and again, I said I'm not an entrepreneur. I think it's great what you're doing, but are there other places of employment that are doing certain or implementing systems like this that are similar like this?
Yeah, so every Fortune 5,000 company, every single one of them, number one, 4,999 and 5,000 and everybody in between, outsources, and they have since the 1960s. Wow. Back in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, you had to buy this big office and connect a fiber optic cable and spend millions and millions of dollars in contracts with private internet companies to get the technology and electricity and power generators and backup powers and satellite internet and all this stuff just to make sure that you could deliver service to your client. Now, with cell phones, iPhones, Galaxies from the Samsungs, and all these different things being worldwide, now people can have the same amount of power from their home, where everybody has fiber optic, where everybody has 4G LTE speeds, where everybody has an iPhone and everybody has a Mac and apps and app stores and all that. So the playing field has leveled completely. Yeah. And you brought up earlier fees or fairness. So fairness varies by location. A fair wage in America, the average wage, according to the 2017 United States Census, the average salary in America is $56,000 American dollars. The average person outside of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and the United States survives off less than $5,000 a year.
Then, of course, the cost of living is different too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they still sell the same hours.
Yeah.
They still sell the same energy.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting point. I mean, so of course, if you were in the business of paying people their time, of course, it would make sense mathematically that you want to outsource those locations specifically.
Absolutely. And so I've got an agency that helps out entrepreneurs get that done. And every single day we're offering work to people in amazing cities like Medellin, Colombia, where I'm at. Let me tell you a quick story about Medellin, Colombia. So Medellin, Colombia has stratos. So these are different 5 stratuses. These are a social economic caste system. So we're going back to like the 1400s or something.
Yeah.
In Medellin, if you are from stratos or stratus 0, 1, 2, or 3, you have various levels of government assistance. If you're at 0, the government gives you basically food stamps. They pay for your electricity. They pay for your medical care. They pay for your housing. They pay for your water. They may pay for some school and some other subsidies and maybe some entertainment. You might get a special price at whatever, free metro or transportation with the public transportation. Everything's taken care of for you. In exchange for that, you cannot get a job for stratus number 3, 4, or 5. So you're stuck in your 0 or 1 or maybe 2. You literally, because your ID card, like on the Hunger Games, because of your district says this, you can't go to the other district because you're stuck there. You've accepted that deal. And what my company does is it empowers people. Yeah, man. What my company does is it empowers people from those lower stratuses, from societies like Medellin, Colombia, and all over the world, to completely say, you know what, this game's so messed up, I'm not even going to play. I'm going to go get a job online through the internet that the government's paying for. And I'm going to get paid, and I'm going to advance myself, and I'm not going to play your game. And that empowers the entire world. So the company that I work with, that I run, our mission is to transition developing nations to the next level. So if it's a second world country, we're going to bump it up to a first world country. If it's a third world country, we're going to bump it up to a second world country by distributing the wealth from American entrepreneurs, Australian entrepreneurs, New Zealand entrepreneurs, the UK entrepreneurs, and the Canadian entrepreneurs.
Interesting. So these people that are stuck to these essentially castes, how, if they're not allowed to work outside of their caste or zone, as you're saying, this is a loophole that they can work on the internet somehow and get an income that way?
There is no loophole, man. What I'm doing right now, what people like me are doing, and my clients, This is 20 or 30 years ahead of our time. Very soon there will be a global currency. Very soon there will be a global minimum wage. Very soon there will be a global time zone, a global benefits package. This is because we're, having freaking rockets being built by SpaceX where you can go to New York to Sydney in 45 minutes. The world's going to get a lot smaller. It already is small.
It's constant.
Right now.
It's always, I know. It's always getting smaller. With the Earth being 24 hours, how would it be? You said a global time, as opposed to like a universal time.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be some place where, because everyone's doing business globally, a business day will have to have some kind of standard.
Oh, so standardized business hours as opposed to everybody being on the same hour. But business hours for the most part would be like, okay, I get it. All right, so for people listening, I beg the question because it did take me by surprise. This is very interesting and very forthcoming, very... you said very futuristic way of thinking, but it's not unbelievable, especially to me, because the world, like you said, is constantly shrinking as technology grows. So I could see it may sound ludicrous to somebody, but I think it sounds very rational that there could be eventually like a global, like an earthly. These are our business hours. And this is when we're going to operate, because this is when everyone's going to operate. And I could easily see there being a global currency.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of these mindsets, like this vision, is something that entrepreneurs have. Yeah. Entrepreneurs always see where things are headed. They don't see things as they are. They see things as where they're headed and as they could be.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very, very important part to make, because I think anybody that would immediately shoot down an idea like that just because it wasn't an idea that was practiced in the present day, you have to realize that you're immediately, hey, that sounds crazy, or hey, that could never happen. Well, why? I don't believe that. Everybody, God, there's an infinite amount of examples of people saying that could never happen. Oh, you'll never do that. They can never create this. You'll never go that far. We'll never go into whatever. The infinite examples. So to have people out there thinking about this stuff already, visionaries, future thinkers, we need people like that, or how the hell are we going to progress? We need thinkers that are going to think like this.
Absolutely. And if you feel you're one of those people and maybe you have an idea, maybe you have a passion, execute on it.
Yes.
What do you have to lose? What do you really have to lose? And what you really have to lose is an illusion of what other people think about you. That's it.
Yeah, I would very much agree. That's a lot, unfortunately, a lot of what holds people back. I mean, exactly. I want to reiterate that again. I'm reiterating a lot of what you said, but a lot of good information is coming out there. Think about really what you have to lose. People are going to say, well, I've got a family, or I've got a job, I've got a wife, I've got a husband, I've got all these things. And I know, I got that stuff coming too. We got a baby on the way. I get it, but I'm still making time for things like this that matter to me. And I still make time for my wife, and I will make time for my future daughter. I get it. But other than that, like, don't be afraid to think a certain way. Don't be afraid to try a certain thing just because you think it's going to get shot down, because you need to take that leap, because ultimately, what do you have to lose? And I understand, like, the older you grow and the more responsibilities you have that I've just described, it can be more risky to lose your job or whatever, because you're like, well, if I'm a visionary and I think this way and I try this company and if it doesn't work, man, I've lost my job now. What can I do? And again, I think it just really depends on what kind of risk you really want to take. I mean, what would you say to somebody that says, hey, Frank, like, I like what you're saying. I like everything that you're saying. I want to be a visionary. I am a visionary myself, but I've got too much on the line right now. I can't take the risk. I mean, you would probably say that you can take the risk. You just don't think you can because you think other people, or you're too worried about what other people are going to think about your potential failures or your thought.
Well, first and foremost, if anything that I say or anybody else says is going to discourage you to follow your dreams, then you probably don't deserve to follow your dreams. Your dream isn't clearly defined. Your dream doesn't matter that much to you. You have yet to find that thing that really sparks that passion inside of you. So what I would encourage for somebody who is coming from that place is I would say, okay, if you really want to work this out, I'll bet you $1 million that we can make this happen, and you're going to have to change your mind a lot. And the first thing that I would say is, okay, if you're an American person and you got 2 kids and a spouse and you're supporting them, well, I know this about you. You've got American cell phones for you and 4 people. You're dropping $500 to $600 on your American cell phones. You're living in a 1,200 to 2,000 square foot home in America that is the most expensive real estate on planet Earth, and you're probably paying an extra $200 to $600 just in electric, utilities, Netflix, internet, Wi-Fi, phone, cable, all the stuff that you don't need, and you're probably paying on a depreciating asset like a car. You're paying an extra, you've got 2 cars, maybe even 3 cars if one of your kids is driving. You're paying an extra $600 to an extra $1,000 in cars. Well, I would seriously ask you to look at what it is that you're doing and just eliminate your expenses. Get out of your leases, get out of your car notes, sell your home, have a stock, sell the watch on your wrist, sell all the useless furniture that you have. And one strategy for entrepreneurism is to take your resources from selling all this crap that you don't own, that actually owns you, because you're working so hard to make that car payment, to make that house loan payment, so the neighbors think that you're successful. So when you send a photo to grandma, she thinks that you've got the perfect family because you got the perfect staircase and all this stuff that doesn't ever matter. You can just take that money and live off of it in Asia, which is the cheapest part on planet Earth that has internet, and try to figure out this online thing, or South America, which is about 60 or 40% less than America. And now you have what we call in the business world runway, or a burn rate. Every business has a burn rate, and that burn rate is your overhead. So if your overhead for you and your employees and your software and your advertising is $5,000, that's your burn rate, and your runway is 12 months, then I know you only have $60,000 in cash on hand. So in 12 months, your runway for your startup to launch and fly is going to be gone. So it's just simple mathematics. Take your resources and put them where you get more bang for your buck. And you could, instead of having to drive your kids to school where they may get shot up in America, literally in a public school, that's a realistic possibility that could happen to your kids. You could take them to Asia and give them a private algebra tutor, a private ninja tutor, a private German tutor, a private violin tutor, and drop maybe $200 a month for private education, and you don't got to worry about them dealing with kids and all the stuff that kids are doing in America.
Yeah,
you got to worry about that.
No, I like where you're coming from, and again, it's very visionary. But I know there's a lot of people that would be like, "Hey, man, I can't. There's no way I can do that. My family's here." Not even my immediate family, but I guess it depends on what you said about defining your priorities and defining what your passion is and what you really want out of life and what you're willing to quote unquote sacrifice to get those things that you want out of life. And if you're able to do that with your family, then so be it. But again, I think it definitely goes back to, it's going to work for some people and it's just simply not going to work for other people. And you really have to find out what works for you, right?
Entrepreneurship is a choice. If you're really an entrepreneur and what I just said makes sense to you, then you would be like, man, that guy's smart. Thank you for that information. I'm going to execute that. People who are not entrepreneurs are going to say, no, I'm scared. I don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And what actually happens is if they were to actually do that, their quality of life would increase probably 15 to 25%, or 15 to 25x. So higher. They would have private massages, chefs, chauffeurs, live in nicer places, healthier food, more affordable health care. They would have all the luxuries and abundance that they could ever want. But because they're so conditioned and they've never really left their zip code or even traveled, they're just stuck there, man. So if what I say doesn't motivate them, they weren't motivated in the first place.
Yeah, totally. And it's my job as host to definitely push back and give you some resistance too, and maybe think about what the listeners listening as well, because I want to prompt you for these responses, since they'll be listening to it after it's recorded. Because I tell you what, I've had some of these similar conversations myself, and people are ultimately, my responses that I usually get from people are that they're not willing to do ultimately what it takes. They think they've done everything they can do. They think they can't give up or sacrifice anything. But I look at them and I go, really? I mean, it's simple as one word, really? You really think you can't do more? It's like you said, when you start to think about it, you don't even need to cut away that many layers to look at cars, cell phone bills, your Wi-Fi, your house, all this crazy stuff that we've just been accustomed to living as you said, is just, we have to do that. And one of the things that absolutely kills me that you brought up is that a lot of people, like, they just, like you, I think you said, like, they want to send like the postcard to their grandma, be like, hey, my life is great. And as much as that can be important to some people, I get it. I can kind of it can kind of resonate with me, but at the same time, I'm like, who the hell are you living for? Are you living to are you living to send that, or are you living the life that you want to live? I mean, I feel like you're treading water in that sense, barely keeping your head above the water at that point. And then you're just, every purchase you're making, every new car that you're getting, that you're leasing, you're just adding another brick into your hands, and you're just harder and harder and harder to tread water. And I feel like that's a lot how life is that I see in America right now. And it's everything that you just said. And people aren't willing to see. It's like you can't see what's drowning them. Like, hey man, you understand you're treading water in a pool with bricks in your hand, and your hands are above the water. If you take some bricks out of your hands, it's going to get easier to tread. If you take, can you afford to? Yes, you can afford to take one car off your, you can take one car out of your life, and you can, maybe you ride the bus while your wife, or I don't know if you can only ultimately sacrifice one. But my point I'm trying to make to everybody listening is that it's right in front of you. It's a damn video I saw the other day. It says the nail in the head. The guy is trying to explain to his wife what's wrong with her, and the nail's drilled right into her forehead. I don't know if you've seen the video. It's a hilarious video. It's a comedy. But essentially, she has a nail driven right into her forehead, and he's trying to explain that there's a nail driven in her forehead, and she says, "No, will you listen to me? It has nothing to do about the nail, but my head is killing me." And it's hysterical, but it's almost kind of sad. It's making fun of spousal relationships, but at the same time, it kind of goes into what we're talking about. All the issues that are maybe weighing you down in life are right in front of you. You're just not willing to accept that it's literally right in front of you. The issue that is causing you pain in your forehead is the nail driven into your skull. Understand that that's maybe what's causing you issues, the things around you. Don't be so reluctant to give up some of these things that we've been so accustomed to having in this world.
Absolutely, man, 100%. And I speak from experience, man. In 2015, I was living in downtown Austin, Texas. I was doing very well in real estate, and I had an apartment downtown at the newest building, so all my friends could see that I was doing good, and I could send postcards to my mom that I was doing awesome. And my rent was $50,000 for the year. I didn't even own that place. I just rented it. So I wasted $50,000 of my own money. And I remember one of the first nights that I went out. I invited everybody back to my place, and we had like a liquor cabinet with all this wine. And I woke up the next day, and all these random strangers just drank all my wine, drank all my alcohol. They trashed my place. I didn't know anybody, and I was like, "What the hell? This is stupid. This is the dumbest thing that I could have ever done." Like $50,000, I could have put that towards a billboard and grow like $500,000 of revenue in my business. What the hell was I thinking? And I really started valuing my resources. And I started valuing what other people thought less. And I started to sell all of my stuff. So imagine me in a 2,500 square foot apartment in downtown Austin, Texas, brand new construction, and selling off everything. My couch, my TV, my salt shaker, my salt and pepper shakers, everything. And just slowly but surely just getting rid of all this crap that didn't weigh me down or that didn't serve me and weighed me down, and just minimizing my life. And I took a car on lease, and I took it back to a dealership, and they were like, "Oh, it's going to cost this much money." And I was like, "Man, it's going to cost me more money to stay in America. Here you go. Send me the bill." And I just peaced out, started living a better life.
Now, another question that I want to preemptively give that listeners might ask when they're listening to this right now is, well, hey, Frank, did your family think you were going crazy? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so here, my family has been known that I'm crazy. I dropped out of college my senior year to start my first business at the age of 20. So, I'm just that kind of guy. For me, it's not out of character to take these kinds of risks. For me, it's not out of character to do those kinds of things because I've just done it for so long. I'm 31 now, and I'm very blessed to be in the entrepreneurship game for over a decade. And I was very blessed to follow my heart at a young age, and I got thick. I got that thick skin. I had people tell me, "Oh, you're gonna be a failure, and I can't believe you're putting all this effort into this, and blah blah blah, and X Y Z. I can't believe you believe in yourself so much, or who the hell do you think you are? And I can't believe you're sharing your success about this, or see, your company failed, or see, you shut that one down, or see, you're no longer doing this, or just they're like waiting to tell you all this stuff, and all I do is take action. The people are going to say whatever they say.
Yeah.
Doesn't affect me from taking action. If I live by a rule now that if I do something and at least, half of the people that I tell don't find it offensive or whatever, like I'm doing something wrong. If I don't have haters, something is wrong. Something is seriously wrong at that time.
Yeah, you got to feed off of it. And that's one of the underlying things that I've recognized very, very easily throughout this whole entire conversation is, you said just now you followed your heart, and you do have to have thick skin. That's another thing. People, from my experience, are always going to shoot you down or oppose what you're doing if they ultimately haven't had the guts to do it themselves. And I think when they see people doing what they wish they had the guts to do, stripping away all their worldly possessions, selling their car for what is perceived as a depreciating manner, selling their couch and their salt and their pepper and all of this, every little thing. I know you give that example because you said all the way down from the big things, the 50 grand apartment, all the way down to the salt and pepper shaker. It was very deliberate the way you described that. And so essentially everything in between that gone. And people, it doesn't matter what they say if you know what you want, but I think it's very important to note that you said, you had people over, you were celebrating, and you're like, who are all these strangers in my house? And why are they drinking all my alcohol? Like, it's just, why do you bust your ass for so long to do all of that for yourself? And then ultimately, now you're spending all that time and that wealth with people that don't give a shit about you. Why are you doing that to yourself? And luckily, you were able to realize that from an early age, 10 years ago, and you're able to have that thick enough skin and the hook supposed to be able to go do it. Ultimately, it's tough. Not everybody can do that. That's why everybody doesn't do that.
Everybody can do it though. It's just a lie that society has told you. Like society is the biggest lie, man. They're like, you can do it, you can do it, but not really, because that's the thing is like it all boils down to your peer group. It really boils down to your peer group. If you take a risk, if you leap and you land, your peer group has two choices. The first choice is they can leap with you. And ideally, that's the kind of people you have with you that always leaping and getting each other to the next level. But human nature wants to keep you kind of reserved. You don't want to be the leader of the pack because you get plotted against. You don't want to be the runt of the litter because you're going to get eaten by saber-toothed tigers. So human nature wants you to be right in the middle. So if you jump and you land and your friends don't want to jump because they're scared they're not going to land, their human nature is going to ridicule you. Their human nature is to be like, oh, I can't believe Kristof is adding an extra 10 pounds on his reps this workout. Who does he think he is? Arnold Schwarzenegger? Or I can't believe Kristof is adding, an extra 20 hours of work to his week this week. Who does he think he is? Elon Musk or something? And they're going to try to get you to be like, oh, no, I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, I'm not Elon Musk, because they want you to feel accepted with them. But if they're acting like that, then are they really your friends?
No.
Do you really want to hang out with those people?
They're just, as soon as you want to start flying, they lasso your ankle and they just want to pull you back to their level ultimately. And I do want to say that when I say that not everybody will do it or can do it, I mean not everybody will do it. Just like you said, anybody really can go do it if they do the things that we've described in the last hour or so. But ultimately, are you willing to give that stuff up? Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to take those leaps? And it's tough. I think, like you said, when we have so many people around you, you may have a lot of the wrong people around you, and that's a realization that you're going to have to take or to make, and you may have to cut away that fat, because if those people in your life that, gosh, if the closest people in your life aren't allowing you to leap forward like that and are constantly saying those little snarky remarks every time you're trying to up the weight or better yourself or work harder or work longer or whatever you're doing that you have to do that requires you to do to get where you want to do, cut those people out, man. And I've talked about it before. I've talked about cutting people out, and sometimes I've talked about with a lot of other people on the show is not always are you in a position to be able to cut people out, whether sometimes it's family that's holding you back or relatives, and maybe you will be able to cut them out, but sometimes you, at least if you do not have the option to cut them out, you limit them, and then you maybe have a conversation, a very, no pun intended, but a very frank conversation, a very upfront conversation with them, and you tell them, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what you are doing. It is limiting me. I do want you in my life. I do not want to cut you out of my life. Other people I have cut out of my life, but I want you in my life. But this is what I'm doing. I feel as if you're inhibiting me. I need you to support me. This is what I'm going to do. And you got to watch me fly now because I'm going.
That's one way to do it, man. That takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. At the end of the day, you're either a soldier or you ain't. Everybody wants to be a Spartan soldier and wear the red cape and have the shiny shield until you got to go to war, buddy. Everyone wants to look like a badass until you got to start killing motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Then you start to find out who you really are.
No, I get it. That absolutely. And I know I had a feeling you were gonna come back like that. I had a feeling because you're just a no time wasting guy. I get it. But once again, and it's already stuff that's been brought up. So I know people are gonna be like, well, what if this and what if that? Well, then maybe you're not gonna go the way that Frank goes. That's fine. If you absolutely think shit have to keep these people in your life, here's another option that I know have worked for other people. But I hope some people take what you're saying at value right now and actually apply it, because you're right. Everybody wants to be the soldier until it's time to be a soldier. Are you willing to do what you have to do to be the person you want to be?
And then the next thing that I would say is you don't watch people's lips. You never watch their lips. You always watch their feet, man. Always watch their feet. They'll tell you everything.
Their feet? Why the feet?
Because the feet will tell you where they vote. If someone says, oh, yeah, I'm committed to live a healthy lifestyle, and their feet don't take them to the gym, they ain't committed to a healthy lifestyle. If someone tells you, oh, yeah, I'm committed to growing my business and going to these networking things, but their feet don't take them to networking things, their feet will tell you everything, man.
I love it.
Feet will tell you everything.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to apply it later. Yeah, it's exactly like, are you a talker or are you a walker? Everybody can talk, and a lot of people do talk. I have too many conversations with people, and it saddens me that talk the talk, but as the saying goes, they cannot walk the walk, and it's very hard to be actionable, but I believe firmly that it is a habit. If you begin to take action, you will only know how to take action.
Absolutely, man. Action begets action. Luck is a byproduct of massive action. There is no such thing as luck. None.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, Frank, the last thing that I did see in your email that I did want to bring up non-organically is that you turned $17,000 in ads into $500,000 in sales. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Walk me through that real quick.
Yeah, so this is actually something that I do on my YouTube channel. You can find everywhere at Talented Mr. Salas. I actually break that down. And also on my website.
Okay.
Look for the e-commerce case study because I break it down in depth. And I'm going to give you the 5-minute.
Yeah, I'll link it right down there. And people will be able to see it too. I'll throw your video in there and people can actually get this super detailed Mr. Talented Frank Salas.
I go deep, man. I go deep. And it's just awesome. So right now, just to kind of give you an idea of where we are right now, because if you listen to this a few years from now, things may change. Right now in Q4 of 2018, almost December, November 28th, 2018, one of the best ways to get an ROI, return on your investment, on ad spend is on Facebook. So the best way to do that is with a video ad. It's really cheap to get video views right now. Typically it's going to cost you 7 to 10 cents to get somebody to watch your video for about 10 seconds. Now, I do a bunch of different ads, and I use this video retargeting schedule or video retargeting strategy. So I send out one video, and for everybody who watches 30 seconds or more of video number 1, they get video number 2. If they watch 29.9 seconds of video number 1, they don't get video number 2. You only get video number 2 if you watch 30 seconds or more of video number 1. So video number 2, same thing. If you watch 30 seconds or more, you get video number 3 and video number 4, and so on and so forth. However, if you ever stop at less than 30 seconds, you don't get the next video. And the first video is just education. Hey, this is our product. Hey, this is what we do. The second video is like, hey, here's a little more about what we do. The third video is like, hey, here's a really cool feature and benefit from what we do. Video number 4 is, hey, here's another look at this. Video number 5 is a blatant offer. We're going to give you 90% off right now. We know you watched video number 1. We know you watched video number 2. We know you watched video number 3. And we know you watched video number 4. We know it. So this is known as retargeting. So to be transparent, I did spend 50 grand on video number 1. I did spend 40 grand on video number 2, and so on and so forth. And I spent 17 grand on video number 3. So from that video number 3, we got a little bit over, we got $544,000 in sales and actual revenue to our organization through that. And we would have never got that if we stopped at video number 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the power of what's called retargeting. And that's the power of social media. Like, you can target people based on the engagement of your videos. And if you're savvy like that, or if you want to work with somebody like myself who's savvy like that, these are the possibilities that you can get from leveraging this technology.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, you've been blowing my mind the whole entire conversation. I've learned a lot from you, but this is something I haven't heard before, and I wanted to bring up real quickly because I was very, very interested, to say the least, and I'm more curious now. So I'm definitely going to check that video out, and I'd like to learn more about it. So I do thank you for sharing the highlights of it, and I'd highly recommend for other people to look into that. I think it's great. Social media is great. I say it all the time. You know, we started with you're doing stuff on your laptop, you're doing stuff on your iPhone. There are so many ways to be successful right now. There are no excuses. Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to do what it takes? You can do it from anywhere in the world. Are you going to sacrifice it? Are you essentially going to break the mold of what society thinks that you should do? I mean, yes or no? Like you said, it's pretty easy to see. Are you going to do it, or are you not going to do it? There's no luck. You make your own luck. Go out there and get after it. Frank, man. I mean, I have no words. I'm very humbled to be in your presence and learn all this from you. It's a very unique conversation that I've had. I've had entrepreneurs in the past, and they've all been great. You have equally been great, but different. And I have learned very new things from you. I'm very appreciative of your time. I know you don't give out your time lightly. From this time with you is very, very easy to see that. So I'm even more appreciative of that. So thank you very much.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I really appreciate you having me on. And if anybody here likes what I said or likes my concepts and would like my help, you can reach out to me everywhere at talentedmrsalas.com, everywhere on social media at talentedmrsalas. Send me an email directly, frank@talentedmrsalas.ph for the Philippines, or frank@talentedmrsalas.com. And my staff will answer that email. And if it's a good fit, we'd love to see how we can help you. My intention for these conversations is, when I was a kid, when I was 20 years old, I used to literally get on my knees and pray to God, like, was there something like this that I could listen to? Because I didn't have access to these kinds of conversations when I started my first business, and I had to learn the hard way. And a lot of the stuff that I say is very extreme, and I know that. And because I know that, I know only 1 or 2 people are actually going to take the legitimate steps to make that happen. And if you're that person, reach out to me and let me know of your success. Let me know that I sparked that passion inside of you, because as I motivate you, you motivate Kristof and myself.
Absolutely, man. I love it. I love it. It's exactly, you're like, what do you want to talk about? I was like, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about what's going on inside your head. And ultimately, I want to help other people. That's what this is geared towards. Showing people that went out there, hey, that guy's doing it. That girl's doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what it takes. And then it's going to go full circle. I'm going to keep the flywheel spinning. And I'm going to teach other people, and I'm going to motivate other people. And then that person that's listening to this, that goes out there and does it themselves, do the same thing. Get after it and give back to other people and teach people, because we want to spread the word on getting after it and doing what you want, doing what you love, helping other people, and showing people that you can break the mold. You can sacrifice, quote unquote, again, sacrifice what you think is a sacrifice and go out there and do it. And I love it, man. You're straightforward. You're a no shit kind of guy. And you're going to tell me not what I want to hear, but you're going to tell me what I need to hear. And I needed to hear this. Thanks, man.
Hey, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure to serve your audience. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Frank, so man, like I said, absolutely thrilled to have you on here. Your time is precious. I'm forever grateful. Everyone knows where to find you. Videos, links, all that good, juicy stuff. All that information we talked about is going to be linked below. They're going to be able to find you if they take action. So thank you.
One love.
All right, see you, man.
Let's get wild.